Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. So glad you're here. What do we got going on in the markets today? Well, we're having another update. Dow's up about 40. Nasdaq's up about 80. Now, we had that big update yesterday. What happened? Well, they came out and they said that we're losing jobs. The jobs are going away. There's not as many jobs. We're having layoffs. We're having job losses. Now, why does this make the market go up? It makes the market go up because they think the Fed is going to pivot. The Fed will pivot and lower interest rates. And when that happens, the market's going to take off, right? Well, that's their take, but never in the course of history has the Fed ever pivoted where it's a forced pivot and the markets have gone higher. Not the stock market, not the real estate market. Usually when the Fed is forced to pivot, that is where the markets come down. That is where the damage takes place. But everybody believes that the Fed's got to pivot now because we're losing those jobs. So that's going to make the market run up. It doesn't work that way. But now we're getting a little bit of a run up here, and I do believe this rally will fail. Now, the HYG is telling us we have a little bit more room to run. We're at about 4,500 on the S&P. I think we'll get up to about 4,550 before this turns around and comes back down. I do think we're going to see a lot of selling in the month of September, which is starting next week. Starting this week, Friday's the 1st, but going into next week, going into September, there's going to be a lot of selling, and I think the selling will continue into October. This is just my take. A lot of the moon boys think we're going to the moon. They think we're going a lot higher. Now, this is fascinating to me. Over in the real estate end of things, Zillow has become a moon boy. We're going to the moon. Houses are going to take off. It's good news. They got a lot of good news in the real estate market right now. The good news is Zillow says we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom right now. We're going to head higher from here. Isn't that great? They say that year over year, 6.5%. So this time next July is what they're calling for. From July to July of next year, the market's going to increase by 6.5%. Now, Zillow has not exactly been accurate with most of their predictions. And you'll also notice if you go back and you can look up articles from Yahoo back in 2006, 2007, a lot of the articles were saying that we're going to have a big run up in houses. Well, what happened in 2008? We had a correction. We had a 34% decline in the housing market. But yet they were saying all these articles were very positive, just like they are today. Zillow is very positive. We're going up 6.5%. But once again, I think the crash will be bigger than 2008. 2008, we only came down by 34%. I think the bubble's much bigger, and therefore I think the pullback's going to be much bigger. Now, in 2008, the pullback would have been bigger. We stopped at 34% because that's where they started to print all the money to blow the bubble back up. That's where the stimulus entered the market. They printed the money, gave the money away for free, and it was unprecedented since 2008. $30 trillion. $30 trillion has been printed, has been handed out, and it's blown the bubble bigger. Now, I think we're going to come in by 50%. Why? Well, I think that we went from all this unprecedented stimulus in the economy to right now we're getting this unprecedented tightening in the economy. 0%, we're now at 5.25%, right? But everybody thinks the Fed's going to pivot, Mike. The Fed's going to pivot. It's going to turn around. Interest rates are going to go back to zero. Mortgages are going to go back to 3%. Well, that's just not my take. That's not my take at all. I think mortgages are going to see 10%, maybe even higher than 10%. Look, inflation's not over. They can tell you it's over. It's not over. It's going to come back, and that 9% that we reached, now we pulled back down. They call it what, 3-4% right now. It's going to go back and take out that 9% number and go higher. Once again, this is just my take. I know that's probably not your take, and that's okay, but I'm telling you my take. Houses will go down 40 to 50% from here. Now, of course, that's not Zillow's take, but Zillow, they're not real good at predicting things. They're not real good at running a business. Look at, they got into the house flipping business, for example. They thought they could do it on a national level. House flipping is a very local business. You have to know the market. But Zillow went in, they said they had these algorithms, right? They're going to figure out what the cost of the house is, and they're going to buy the house, and they're going to flip the house at a higher figure. They're going to pump up the volume of the house sales. Well, Zillow lost basically $1 billion doing that. Now, as a real estate broker, I spend much of my time explaining to my clients why they're not going to get the price that Zillow says their house is worth. Now, a lot of times Zillow says their house is worth $2 million. And I have to go in and explain to them that the last house sold for 1.5 and they'll be lucky to get that. Oh, but Mike, Zillow's got me at $2 million. Zillow couldn't be wrong, could they? Well, actually, I think Zillow would have a problem predicting what day of the week it is. Zillow is not real accurate with their predictions. And their predictions that we're going to the moon in houses, that we've hit the bottom and we're only going up from here, I say is dead wrong. I believe that is dead wrong. I believe that we're still coming in by about 50%. Now, why do I say that? A lot of people believe that there's this big shortage of houses. There really is not a shortage of houses. What we got right now going on, it's kind of like house hoarding, right? We've got some problems there. A lot of investors are hoarding houses. A lot of wealthy people, they're hoarding houses. I have these people as clients, right? They own 2 or 3 houses and they can only live in one and the other 2 sit vacant. Those are kind of like vacation homes, kind of like investments for them. You see, they have a lot of extra money and a lot of these houses are paid for. They pay with cash, but they don't want to see their equity get wiped out. Once the market starts to come down, these houses will be put on the marketplace. Nobody really needs 3 houses. You can only live in one at a time, but we get these wealthy investors, right? And they're hoarding the houses. Kind of like, well, it's a shadow inventory, if you will. There's somewhere between 12 and 14 million vacant houses right now. And I never really used to understand why people have vacant houses. Now, I'll tell you a quick story here about, well, when I was starting out in the real estate investment business, I used to flip houses. Well, that's what I wanted to do, except I didn't have much money saved up. So I needed to get an investor. And I knew one wealthy gentleman. He was a client of mine. I used to have video stores, and he was one of my customers. I told him about this property that I found, and I asked if he would want to go in and invest in this property with me. Now, it was this old Victorian house. It was a very long house, and it was on a large lot. But the thing I liked about it, it was zoned to be a duplex, meaning it was a single family residence, but it was zoned to be a duplex. So me and my buddy, we bought it anyways. We invested in this house. And what we did is we put a wall in the hallway. We put a wall in the hallway and we called it a duplex. It was a non-conforming duplex. We converted the laundry room into a kitchen. So each side had a kitchen. Each side had a bathroom. One had a couple bedrooms. The other had one bedroom. And we rented it out. We collected the rents. Now, there was only 1 meter on it, so we had to divide the utilities and bill them separately. But we put a wall in the hallway. That's basically all we did. But this became a profitable investment for us because it started to cash flow. We were bringing in more cash than our mortgage payment. You see, that's a good investment. Today, that's very hard to find where you go out and buy a property. I mean, we only put 10% down on this house, right? So, but we were cash flowing already. So we sold it as a duplex, right? And we made a lot of money on the property. We made about $40,000 or $50,000 on it. Well, it was like $120,000 property. But that was one of my first investments in the house flipping business. We put a wall in the hallway, made it into a duplex, rented out each side, put it onto the marketplace and made a quick 40 or 50,000, made about $20,000 each. Well, he was a very wealthy gentleman, and he thanked me for the business, and he became my client. I would buy him properties. Now, what I found fascinating about this guy is he would buy a property, but he would not put a tenant in it. He would leave the property vacant. I asked him why he did that. Well, he said he had this other property where he has a tenant in the property. And I go, well, that sounds good. So you're making money? I goes, no, the tenant hasn't paid me any rent for 2 years. For 2 years, he's had this tenant living in his house and he hasn't collected any rent. I said, well, why don't you evict the guy? And he goes, well, Mike, it's really hard to get a tenant. Where would I find another tenant? Well, it doesn't sound like this one's paying. So anyways, he wasn't the smartest guy in the world, but he didn't collect rent there. Now today, you can, well, back then you could actually kick the tenant out if they didn't pay you rent. Today, there's a lot of laws and a lot of loopholes that tenants use to stay in your properties and you do not collect the rent. But this gentleman would go out and he would buy a house and he would basically board it up, if you will. I mean, he'd just keep it vacant. And then 4 or 5 years later, he'd sell the property. And he actually made money doing this because houses were going like this. Now, if houses were going the other way, he'd be losing money. But a lot of investors have houses out there and they're sitting vacant. There's no tenants in them and they're not for sale. Now, they're just tying up their cash, right? They're putting their cash into the property because they see what the government's doing. The government's printing all this money. Cash is going down by about 10% a year in purchasing power. They feel the house will go down less. Now, I'm not sure if that's true or not. I think houses will start to go down about 40 or 50% from here. Now, once again, Zillow says we've hit the bottom. We're going much higher. Now, look at, I love real estate. I really do. I've made a lot of money in real estate, made money flipping houses, made money as a real estate broker, made money in owning my own house and living in it, and they've gone up in value. And real estate has been very good to me. It's been my life, if you will. But right now is a terrible, terrible time to buy houses. Look at home affordability is it's at a 40-year low. It hasn't been this unaffordable for over 40 years. It's a terrible time to buy because why? Well, because rates are at a 23-year high. Rates are at a 23-year high, but prices haven't come down. So you got rates at 23-year high. You got prices at record highs or close to record highs. And you got home affordability at a 40-year low. Right now is not the time to be a buyer. A lot of people think that it is a time to be a buyer. Dave Ramsey will tell you it's a great time to buy. Barbara Cochran will tell you it's a great time to buy. Zillow will tell you we've hit the bottom and we're going to the moon. Zillow's become this moon boy. I'll tell you, it's a terrible, terrible time to buy. I actually think that the housing market is going to come in. Now, you may have a little bit of time to get out still. I mean, it's not free falling. It's not crashing. You can get out close to the price that Billy Bob got out at, but it's going to come down. Now, if you don't mind that, just hold on to your house. That's what I'm doing. I got a principal resident. I sold off all my rentals. I don't have any rentals anymore, but I do hold on to my principal resident because I like where I live. And yes, I believe I'm going to lose a lot of equity. A lot of equity is going to get wiped out. If I were smart like Billy Bob, I'd sell right now, go out and rent somewhere, go on vacation for a year, come back a year from now. I bet you we're not up 6.5% like Zillow says. I bet we're down more than 6%. I bet we're down closer to 10, 20% on the way down to 30 or 40%. Now, this is going to take time to play out. It doesn't crash like the stock market. Stock market can crash in one day. You wake up tomorrow, the stock market could be half off. Now, houses don't work that way. Takes a little bit longer to play out, but they are sold on the margin. So when your neighbor sells for $50,000 below what you bought your house at, yes, you're $50,000 underwater, and you're more than that underwater because it's going to take you costs to get out of your property. There are costs involved, about $7 7 or 8% to sell a house right now. To get all the fees going through escrow, you're going to be underwater. A lot of people are underwater right now. If you bought in the last year, I guarantee you are underwater. Now, of course, not in your area. Your area's probably gone up 10 or 20% this last year. But most areas are down. Most areas are down. We're flat to down in most areas. In my area, heck, we're down about 10% still. That's San Jose, California. You can go up to Seattle, down about 8%. Go out to Las Vegas, still down. Phoenix, still down. Texas, still down. Los Angeles, still down. Now, this is mostly West Coast up. I realize on the East Coast up in the, Pennsylvania, New York up there, it's still pretty strong in the Northeast, but you go down to Florida, Florida's starting to come down. They got a big hurricane coming in today. That's probably going to wipe out some homes, right? So maybe the inventory is going to go away. Maybe that can prop up the housing market, and I don't wish that on anybody. A hurricane's a terrible thing, and it's going to do a lot of damage, I'm afraid. But the housing market is not going up right now. It's coming in. It's coming down. Zillow has this wrong. Zillow is a moon boy. I have a lot of moon boys. They leave me comments. They'll tell me, but Mike, you got this all wrong. Houses are going to the moon. Stock market going to the moon. That's just not the way I see it. I don't see it that way. I see it coming in 30, 40, 50%. That's just my take. I'm Tall Mike. If you like this stuff, give me the thumbs up. Why not? Why not? Get out there, enjoy your day, everybody. Hit that subscribe button first, because I got some real exciting stuff coming up for you later in the week. Bye-bye now.